My name is Amanda, and for years my family treated me like I was invisible, a ghost haunting the edges of their perfect, privileged lives. They told me I was too emotional, too naive, too female to ever amount to anything truly significant, especially in our family's multi-million-dollar tech empire based right here in Texas. They laughed when I talked about my ideas, patted my head like I was a child, and then last year they effectively wrote me out of the family business entirely, declaring I had no place in their vision for the future. My parents, my older brother Mark and his conniving wife Sarah, their faces were a mask of smug satisfaction as they delivered the news. But little did they know, as they sipped their champagne and celebrated their perceived victory, that I was already building something they couldn't ignore. Something that would make their carefully constructed world crumble. They never saw it coming. Their faces are going to turn ghostly pale when they realize what they've lost. If you've ever felt dismissed, overlooked, or told you weren't good enough by the very people who should have championed you, hit that like button. Let me know in the comments if you believe in fighting for your worth, even when everyone else has written you off. Growing up in our sprawling Texas mansion, it was clear from day one that I was the outlier. My older brother, Mark, was the golden child, destined to inherit the throne of Sterling Innovations, our family's incredibly successful software development company. From the moment he could string a sentence together, every one of his childish doodles was hailed as a stroke of genius. Every mediocre report card celebrated as a sign of his burgeoning brilliance. Meanwhile, I was just the quiet one. The one who spent hours coding intricate programs on an ancient desktop while Mark was out charming clients at family dinners. I remember my 10th birthday, a stark example of the blatant favoritism. Mark had just turned 12, and for his birthday he received a top-of-the-line gaming PC, complete with all the bells and whistles, costing thousands. For mine, just 2 months later, I got a set of watercolors. My mom, Eleanor, smiled sweetly. "You're so creative, darling. Mark needs his computer for his future endeavors." My father, Richard, just nodded, engrossed in his tablet. It wasn't about the gift itself, but the message. Mark's aspirations were paramount, mine were a trivial hobby. This pattern continued through my adolescence. When I excelled in advanced computer science classes, earning national recognition for a complex algorithm I developed, my parents barely blinked. "That's nice, dear," my mother would say, usually while simultaneously praising Mark for closing a minor deal at the company, even though he was still in college. My father would dismiss my ideas for Sterling Innovations, saying things like, "That's a cute thought, Amanda, but we deal with serious business here." The emotional impact was a constant dull ache, a feeling of invisibility that burrowed deep into my bones. I yearned for their approval for just one moment where they saw me, truly saw my capabilities. The final straw, the pivotal event that snapped something inside me, came last year. I had just completed my MBA with honors, specializing in tech entrepreneurship, and had spent months developing a groundbreaking software suite for sustainable urban development, a niche Sterling Innovations had completely ignored. I presented my proposal to my family during their annual Future Vision meeting, hoping against all odds for a chance. I had prepared meticulously, pouring my heart and soul into the presentation. My father barely let me finish. "Amanda," he sighed, adjusting his tie, "this is ambitious. But frankly, it's not our wheelhouse. And we've decided it's time to formalize Mark's succession. We're restructuring. Your role, if you insist on having one, would be limited to administrative support. Perhaps managing the charity initiatives." My brother Mark, ever the smug inheritor, chimed in, "It's just not a good fit, sis. You're better suited for softer ventures." His wife Sarah gave me a condescending smile. "Yes, darling. You're just not cut out for the cutthroat world of tech. It takes a certain ruthlessness." The words hit me like physical blows. Administrative support? Charity initiatives? They were telling me unequivocally that despite my education, my passion, and my proven abilities, I was a glorified secretary, a token female presence, entirely excluded from the core business I had dedicated my life to understanding. I felt tears prickling my eyes, but I swallowed them back. The anger, hot and searing, replaced the usual ache. In that moment, watching their dismissive faces, something truly broke inside me. It wasn't just a slight, it was a total rejection of who I was and what I could achieve. That night, I cried until I was hollow, and then a fierce determination solidified within me. I wouldn't just prove them wrong. I would build something so undeniably powerful, so spectacularly successful, that they would be forced to acknowledge me. Not as a family member seeking validation, but as a force they had foolishly underestimated. The rejection from my family, while devastating, became the fuel for my fire. I packed my bags, left the suffocating opulence of the family mansion, and moved into a tiny rented apartment in Austin. I knew I couldn't stay in their shadow. My journey to build Veridian Solutions, my sustainable urban development software company, was anything but easy. I worked multiple jobs, bartending late nights and freelancing as a web developer by day, just to save enough capital to develop my initial prototypes. Sleep became a luxury and ramen noodles were my gourmet meals. There were countless nights I doubted myself, overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the challenge and the constant echo of my family's dismissive voices in my head. But with every line of code I wrote, every rejection from potential investors, my resolve only hardened. I immersed myself in the world of smart city technology, sustainability, and urban planning. I attended every conference, devoured every white paper, and connected with experts in the field. I learned to code in new languages, mastered complex data analytics, and developed an understanding of urban infrastructure that went far beyond what Sterling Innovations had ever attempted. My expertise wasn't just theoretical. It was built on grueling, practical application. Along the way, I found my chosen family. There was Professor Anya Sharma, my former university mentor, who believed in my vision when no one else did. She provided invaluable guidance, connected me with her network, and became a true confidant. Then there was Leo, a brilliant software engineer I met at a hackathon. He saw the potential in my prototype and joined me, becoming my co-founder and a steadfast friend. And finally, David, a quiet but incredibly astute venture capitalist who, after seeing my passion and the undeniable potential of Veridian's platform, became our first major investor. These individuals didn't care about my family name. They cared about my ideas, my drive, and my ability to execute. They offered the unconditional support, encouragement, and recognition that my own blood family had so cruelly withheld. With them, I felt seen, valued, and genuinely supported, a stark contrast to the dismissive indifference I had always received. Even as Veridian Solutions began to gain traction, winning small grants and attracting positive press within the industry, my family remained oblivious, or perhaps willfully ignorant. When an article about Veridian's innovative approach to waste management appeared in a prominent tech journal, I cautiously sent it to my mother. Her response was a single text message. "That's lovely, dear. Mark just closed a massive deal with Global Tech. So proud of him." There was no acknowledgement of my achievement, no curiosity about my business, just a swift redirection back to Mark's accomplishments. My father continued to see me as a frivolous dreamer. During one of our rare family calls where I was trying to explain Veridian's progress, he interrupted me to ask if I'd considered coming back to Texas and settling down. He suggested I could find a nice husband and let him worry about the hard business stuff. The condescension was palpable, a constant reminder that no matter what I did, they would always see me as less than. Mark even tried to manipulate me once, suggesting I merge Veridian with Sterling Innovations, implying he'd generously let me be a junior partner. His tone made it clear he expected me to jump at the chance to be under his thumb again. I simply laughed and politely declined, a quiet thrill running through me. They had no idea how far I had truly come, how powerful Veridian was becoming. As Veridian's success surged, driven by innovative technology and a growing client base, a subtle, almost imperceptible plan began to form in my mind. It wasn't about vengeance in the petty sense. It was about a public, undeniable validation of my worth, a revelation that would leave them no room for dismissal or condescension. I didn't just want to succeed, I wanted them to witness it, to fully grasp the magnitude of what they had thrown away, and what they had underestimated. The pieces were falling into place, and soon the world, and more importantly my family, would see the true power of Veridian Solutions. The setting for my long-awaited revelation was the annual Texas Tech Gala, a glittering, high-profile event that brought together the titans of the state's technology industry. It was an event my family, particularly my father and Mark, never missed. Sterling Innovations was a major sponsor, and they were always at the center of attention, holding court with their industry peers, reveling in their perceived superiority. I received an invitation not as a Sterling but as the CEO of Veridian Solutions, a company that was now generating significant buzz. I knew this was my moment. As I entered the grand ballroom, the air thick with the murmur of conversation and the clinking of glasses, I spotted them immediately. My father, Richard, stood tall and imposing, his arm draped around my mother, Eleanor, who was resplendent in a designer gown. Mark, ever the dutiful heir, was beside them, his arm around Sarah, who beamed with an almost predatory satisfaction. They were a picture of power and privilege, completely oblivious to the impending shift in their universe. I watched them for a moment, a cool sense of anticipation settling over me. They looked so smug, so confident in their world. My mother caught my eye from across the room. She offered a brief, polite nod, a faint, almost pitying smile gracing her lips, then quickly turned back to her conversation, dismissing me as usual. Mark simply smirked, a silent message of "still playing with your little side projects, sis?" Their condescension was a familiar, bitter taste. Then the host for the evening, Senator Evelyn Reed, a powerful figure in Texas politics and a staunch advocate for sustainable development, stepped onto the stage to announce the recipient of the Innovator of the Year award, one of the most prestigious accolades in the state's tech sector. The chatter in the room softened, replaced by a collective hush. This year's recipient, Senator Reed announced, her voice resonating through the ballroom, is a visionary who has not only pioneered groundbreaking software for sustainable urban development but has also demonstrated unparalleled resilience and a fierce commitment to a greener future. This individual has taken a concept that many deemed too niche, or too ambitious, and built it into a multi-million-dollar enterprise that is transforming cities across the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to present the Innovator of the Year award to Amanda Sterling, CEO of Veridian Solutions. A stunned silence fell over the room for a beat, then erupted into thunderous applause. I walked towards the stage, a surge of adrenaline coursing through me, my heart pounding a triumphant rhythm. From the corner of my eye, I saw my family. My father's face, usually so composed, had drained of all color, his jaw slacked. My mother's eyes were wide with shock, her hand involuntarily flying to her mouth. Mark's confident smirk had vanished, replaced by a look of utter disbelief, his mouth opening and closing without sound. Sarah's face was a grotesque mask of envy and horror, her perfect smile having completely crumbled. As I reached the podium, Senator Reed shook my hand warmly, then turned to the microphone. "And it's even more impressive," she continued, "knowing that Amanda built this empire from the ground up, with no initial capital, no institutional backing, and overcoming significant personal challenges. A true testament to grit and genius." Her gaze swept over the room, lingering for a moment on my family's table. The implied shame was a palpable force. I stepped up to the microphone, looking out at the sea of faces, then my gaze locked with my family's. Their shock was profound, undeniable. "Thank you, Senator Reed," I began, my voice clear and steady. "This award isn't just for me or for Veridian Solutions. It's for every person who has ever been told they're not good enough, that their dreams are too big, or that they don't belong." I paused, letting my words sink in, then continued. "For years I was told I had no place in the family business. That my ideas were too soft, my ambition misguided. I was offered a role in administrative support, while others were groomed for leadership. I saw my father flinch, my mother look away, and Mark visibly squirm. But I realized that true worth isn't inherited, it's built. True legacy isn't given, it's earned. And sometimes, the greatest strength comes from realizing you don't need validation from those who never truly saw you." The room erupted again in applause, louder this time. As I accepted the Crystal Award, my eyes met my father's across the room. He looked small, defeated, his usual aura of command completely shattered. Mark was whispering frantically to Sarah, his face pale and contorted. The external validation was overwhelming, and it wasn't just Senator Reed. David, my venture capitalist, approached me after I stepped down, shaking my hand and proclaiming loudly enough for many to hear, "Amanda, your valuation just doubled overnight. Incredible." A long-lost cousin who had always been distant approached me with genuine warmth. "Amanda, I always knew you were special. Your family truly misjudged you." The weight of their past dismissals, the years of feeling invisible, lifted off my shoulders in that moment, replaced by a profound sense of vindication and triumph. They had underestimated me, and now the entire tech community knew it. The immediate aftermath of the gala was a whirlwind. My family, stripped of their composure, approached me with a desperate urgency. My mother, Eleanor, reached for my hand, her voice a shaky whisper. "Amanda, darling, we had no idea. Why didn't you tell us?" My father, Richard, ever the businessman, quickly recovered, his tone surprisingly conciliatory. "Amanda, this is truly remarkable. We always knew you had potential. Perhaps we simply underestimated the scale of it. We should discuss integrating Veridian into Sterling Innovations. Imagine the synergies." Mark, meanwhile, was already proposing a joint venture, conveniently forgetting his past dismissals, his eyes gleaming with a newfound desperate respect. Sarah, surprisingly, remained silent, her face a mixture of envy and begrudging awe. I looked at them, calm and composed. "Mother," I said gently, pulling my hand away, "I tried to tell you. Many times. And father, as for integration, Veridian Solutions is not for sale, nor is it looking for a merger. We are doing just fine on our own." I turned to Mark, a faint smile playing on my lips. "And Mark, as for synergies, I believe Veridian has established its own unique and successful path, quite independently. Their attempts to recover, to spin the narrative, to beg for reconciliation, or more accurately, a piece of my success, were transparent. I maintained firm boundaries. I wasn't cruel, but I was unyielding. My no was definitive, backed by years of their neglect. The shift in family dynamics was immediate and profound. My parents, while still publicly maintaining a facade of familial pride, became noticeably more subdued. Their conversations about Mark's accomplishments lost their boastful edge. Some extended family members who had previously sided with my parents began reaching out to me, offering belated congratulations and, in some cases, apologies. Other, more toxic relationships, particularly with Mark and Sarah, were irrevocably severed. I simply stopped engaging with their attempts to contact me, recognizing that their interest was purely transactional. My life and Veridian Solutions continued to flourish. The Innovator of the Year award propelled Veridian into the national spotlight, opening doors to even larger contracts and partnerships. We secured a multi-million-dollar deal to implement our software in several major cities across the country, a project far exceeding anything Sterling Innovations had ever undertaken in my specialized field. I was no longer just the CEO. I was a recognized leader, a keynote speaker at industry events, and a mentor to aspiring female entrepreneurs. The most profound resolution, however, was internal. The incessant craving for my family's approval, that deep-seated yearning for their recognition, had finally vanished. It was replaced by a profound sense of self-worth and liberation. I no longer needed their validation because I had validated myself. My chosen family, Professor Sharma, Leo, David, and the incredible team at Veridian, provided the unwavering support and respect that I had always deserved. True family, I learned, isn't just about blood. It's about the people who see your worth, uplift your spirit, and celebrate your successes without reservation. I was finally free, not from them but from the need for them. My story, the journey of Amanda Sterling and Veridian Solutions, is a testament to one undeniable truth. Your worth is not defined by others' perceptions, especially those who refuse to see it. I turned years of dismissal, neglect, and outright betrayal into the driving force behind my greatest achievement. My pain became my purpose, and through that purpose I found not only success but also a profound sense of liberation and self-respect. Boundaries aren't just necessary, they're vital for protecting your peace and cultivating your true potential. To anyone out there feeling small, invisible, or undervalued by the people who should be your biggest cheerleaders, remember this. The greatest revenge isn't bitterness or retaliation. It's building a life so authentically yours, so undeniably successful on your own terms, that their opinions become utterly irrelevant. It's about proving to yourself, above all else, that you are capable of achieving far more than anyone ever gave you credit for. You are worthy of respect, and you deserve a life where your brilliance is not just seen but celebrated. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to fight to prove your worth, I encourage you to share your own experiences in the comments below. What did you overcome? How did you find your voice? Like and subscribe to this channel if you believe in the power of resilience and turning adversity into triumph. And please share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Someone who needs to be reminded that they have an undeniable place in this world, even if others try to tell them otherwise.